I had to be to work early. So I didn't wake anybody up when I left the house.
Tara's brother and sister were getting ready to get on the bus.
The night before, Sharon had asked 19-year-old Tara to stay home the next day to deal with the plumbers who were due at the house to look at a septic tank problem.
So I woke Tara up to let her know that I was leaving and that the septic company was coming. She had her earrings and she had her hair still with the ribbons, and as normal, I told her I loved her. And then I went to work.
When I left work, I just went directly home, and I pulled up. I seen Tara's car was still in the drive, and Veronica, she said, Tara's not here. I said, and where's your sister? She told me she didn't know. And then I looked in Tara's room, and I could see all of her stuff was there.
Keith had called me at work. I knew something was wrong, and I immediately left work. There's no way that Tara would have not told us where she was going or what she was doing.
Her purse was there, her car keys were laying out and stuff. I mean, she'd definitely take her purse with her. And I know she would never leave the door open. I mean, it's just the type of girl she was. And I'm just looking through the rooms. When I looked in our room, I opened my drawer and I looked in there. My jewelry was gone, my money was gone. Everything pointed to trouble. I just called the sheriff's department right away.
The patrol officer writes up a report on the stolen items and interviews two neighbors who saw nothing suspicious.
We're in the house, and our one friend was like, what's this? Is this Tara's earring? And you had to pull it out of the carpet. It wasn't just laying there, it was embedded.
That was the one Tara was wearing the day before.
You just think of, why are they embedded in the carpet?
Sergeant Brian Harrison searches the house for any signs of a struggle.
I recall walking into the bedroom, and you could observe the mattress and box spring were slightly separated from one another. And we could see some what looked like shoe or scuff marks on a dresser, which indicates to me a potential struggle. At the front of the house, there was a small palm tree near the front door that was pushed over, and on either side of it was tire tracks, indicating to me that somebody had driven a vehicle into the front yard, and it was just within a few feet of the front door.
A ribbon was found in the front yard, same type of ribbon that Tara wore in her hair.
Next, investigators turn their attention to the septic tank workers who were due at Tara's house that day.
When I spoke with Philip Bard and asked him if he was at Tara's residence the day prior, doing some septic work, and he said, yes, I was, and in fact, I can show you the paperwork. He stated that his partner, David McManus, had knocked on the front door and had contact with the young lady at the house.
Police also talked to Barr's live-in girlfriend, Linda Dilley, to corroborate his account. McManus and Barr say they briefly entered Tara's house to test the toilet. Weeks pass with no trace of Tara and no new leads. Tara's 20th birthday is fast approaching.
We still hope that she's coming back. So we still have a birthday party for her. Her presence sat on the bed for months till we found her.
After 284 agonizing days and nights, a terrible discovery is made 10 miles from Tara's house.
A construction worker had to go to the bathroom, so he decided he would drive down this long dirt trail, and he walks a couple feet, I guess, and notices what he believed was a human skeleton. We bring in an excavation team, And we painstakingly, slowly go through every piece of grass and weeds and dirt and clumps and roots around that area, looking for evidence.
The rain, the elements of Florida are very rough on a decomposing body like that. The decomposition is going to be much more rapid in the heat, and it doesn't take long. You've lost physical evidence, and being able to determine exact cause of death, it can become very difficult.
We found the skull, we found some long bones, and some of the smaller bones, and some of the rib bones.
But we only recovered less than half of the true number of bones that are in a person's body.
They found a belly button ring. So that's, we knew right then and there.
The results of that autopsy indicated to us that she was involved in quite a struggle.
We were able to determine through the forensic anthropologist that she did have injuries to her ribs that were consistent with being caused at the time of her death.
It's frustrating when you don't have any leads to follow, but those cases are never closed. Detectives that are working in the major crimes unit will be assigned old cases to work on them when they have time, which never comes. And then in 2009, the sheriff asked me to come in and start a cold case unit and gave me an opportunity to continue the work on Tara's case, to give it a fresh look.
Kurt Mell zeroes in on the statement of the neighbor who saw the white pickup at Tara's house on the day she vanished.
I discovered that in the interview of the next door neighbor, she had told the officer that her sister-in-law was present, but she had not identified her sister-in-law.
The investigators tracked down the neighbor's sister-in-law.
And she saw a lot more than what the neighbor saw. She witnessed both Philip Barr and David McManus, the septic workers, walk through the front door of Tara's house.
The first time, they seemed like they were happy. The second time she saw them, when they backed the truck up, there was an obvious demeanor change. She said that they looked like they were sweaty and looked like they were frantic, in a hurry.
Once we interviewed this witness, we were extremely excited. It was a game changer.
Prosecutors believe they now have enough evidence to charge the two septic workers who were questioned early on in the investigation. As detectives prepare the case for trial, they stumble across another piece of damning evidence.
Back in 2002, Phil Barr was incarcerated in the county jail for unrelated charges to the Tara case. A jail call was then made by Phil Barr to Linda Dilley.
Linda was Phil Barr's girlfriend. She was mad at him as usual about, why he was in jail, and she was mad about the whole thing with Tara.
They just know I know more than what I'm saying, and I totally expect to eventually be arrested for some and I'm so sick of that and I hope the laying someplace dead in the middle of the woods, rotting away with ants eating her eyes out.
Linda Dilley was criminally charged with 2 counts of perjury in a capital murder case.
Linda's attorney approaches the prosecutor, looking for a plea deal.
She blurted out that she saw a body in the driveway wrapped in a beige sheet. Then she talked about how Barr approached her on the 1st or the 2nd of October after the murder and asked her how to get rid of blood and how to get rid of DNA.
They both deny any involvement and plead not guilty. They're tried separately, with Phil Barr first to face both justice and his former girlfriend. The jury deliberates for just 90 minutes before returning a verdict.
When I heard the word guilty, and I just remember hugging my children and, just like, we did it.
Dave McManus is tried and convicted 2 years later. Like Barr, He is sentenced to life in prison.
It was a nightmare for a very, very long time. If it wasn't for the cold case unit, I don't believe I would have justice.